Joe Biden visits Kenosha and causes just as much uproar as Donald Trump did when he visited there. A car has gone through a crowd of protesters up in the Bronx. Discover has said that they are not allowing anybody to donate to anything that involves Kyle Rittenhouse, and GM and Honda establish a strategic alliance in North America. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to here today, and a little bit of a late start because I wasn't used to going to bed as late as I did on a Thursday night rather than a Tuesday night. So my body reacted just a little bit to it today, but we are here, we are ready to go, and we've got to get to a bunch of stuff here. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. FreedomScoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got the Generational Gap, the Daily Ignoramus, and Stephen, by the way, just interviewed Matt Christensen, so if you haven't seen that, head on over to the website and check that out. We also carry the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-rated conservative, and the Freckles and Brit show, so come on over there and check out all of our stuff, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, let's get into the stocks right away so we can get into the news. We've got a full tab bar up here to work with today. And starting off with the chart, we had a little bit of a slide, and the futures are not looking really good as well either, looking into everything that we're seeing here. 2.78% loss. It's probably one of the biggest losses I've seen in quite a while over a day. Definitely not like what we saw in March, but definitely a good sized loss that we saw just on that one day there. So we are back under 29,000 to 28, just about 28.3. Let's see what the experts have to say on that one here, starting with Investors Business Daily. We have a Labor Day deal, guys. I could get 2 months for $34.95. Mind you, I read from this paper or publication every day, and I haven't paid a penny to them, so I don't know what the $34.95 is going to do for me, but that's what we'll see here. But starting out here, Dow Jones today, tech futures fall sharply ahead of jobs report after stock market rally rout. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones futures rode modestly Friday morning, while S&P 500 futures were little changed, and Nasdaq futures fell sharply after the stock market rally's biggest loss in months. The August jobs report is on tap. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon all pointed lower, with Tesla, Nvidia, and AMD down significantly. DocuSign tumbled after seemingly strong earnings, while Broadcom stock fell slightly. On Thursday, the stock market rally suffered its worst day in months. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 2.8% in Thursday's stock market trading. The S&P 500 skidded 3.5%. The Nasdaq Composite tumbled 4.9% after briefly dipping below its 21-day exponential moving average. Apple stock fell 8% on Thursday. Microsoft sank 6.2%. Well, Apple just did a big split, so they're a little bit volatile right now. And Amazon stock 4.6%, back to the top of short consolidations. Nvidia tumbled 9.3%. Nvidia took a hit, and so did AMD at 8.5%. Tesla skidded 9%, retreating for a third straight session, but holding above its 21-day line. In pre-market trading, Tesla stock fell 6%, signaling a move below its 21-day line. Apple declined 3%, while Microsoft and Amazon stock retreated 1%. Nvidia and AMD stock sank 4 to 5%. DocuSign sold off 8% after losing 8.7% on Thursday. Broadcom, AVGO edged lower following Thursday's 6% slide. Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, and Nvidia are on IBD leaderboard. Microsoft stock is on IBD long-term leaders. Nvidia, AMD, and Microsoft are all on the IBD 50 list. For the futures, Dow Jones futures today climbed 0.4% versus fair value, well off morning highs, above 1%. S&P 500 futures edged lower. Nasdaq 100 futures sank 1%, near overnight lows after briefly turning positive. So, Dow is up ever so slightly. S&P 500 is down, and Nasdaq is down. So we will see what happens throughout the day. China is reportedly making a new effort to develop its own semiconductor industry in the wake of U.S. restrictions on dealings with telecom gear giant Huawei. This could be added to pressure on chip stocks such as AMD and Nvidia. Keep in mind, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. That's especially true after a big market sell-off with Nasdaq at a key level. The swings in the Dow futures do suggest that Friday's session will be volatile. And I just want to touch on this one here before we get into the coronavirus stuff. The August jobs report. Dow Jones futures will likely move on the August jobs report due at 8:30 a.m. Friday. Thought those were supposed to be in yesterday. The consensus is for, no, that's the monthly jobs, not the weekly claims. Yeah, the weekly claims was under 1 million. It was like 800,000. I saw that yesterday. The consensus is for 1.4 million jobs added to non-farm payrolls, signaling a continued economic recovery. But analyst estimates vary widely on this jobs report. The unemployment rate is expected to fall to 9.8% from July's 10.2%. What do you guys think, over under? Do you think they'll have more than 1.4 million or less? Although it is 9 a.m. Eastern time right now, so you could actually probably just go over there and look at this point without guessing, because they were due 29 minutes ago. All right, let's keep going here. I've got one from CNBC. S&P 500 futures turn negative as tech shares fall again in pre-market trading. From Fred Imbert and Katrina Bishop. U.S. stock futures indicated a mixed open on Friday as tech shares struggled after a big one-day sell-off. S&P 500 futures were down 0.2%. Futures for the tech-heavy NASDAQ 100 lost 1.4%. Meanwhile, Dow Jones Industrial Average futures added 35 points, or 0.2%. In pre-market trading Friday, Apple was lower by 2.5%. Tesla, which plunged 9% on Thursday, fell by 5%. In the pre-market, go buy your Tesla, dude. Absolutely, go buy your Tesla. If they're going to drop, they'll be affordable. Facebook, Amazon, and Netflix were also in the red in early trading. The Dow slid more than 800 points, or 2.8% on Thursday, for its biggest one-day decline. Since June, the S&P 500 plunged 3.5%, and the NASDAQ composite dropped 5%. Thursday's decline also wiped out the major averages gains for the week and knocked both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ off record levels. As a sector, tech had its worst day since March, falling 5.83%. Apple contributed a big portion of those losses, falling 8%. Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Alphabet, Microsoft also closed Thursday's session sharply lower. So, yeah, they're pretty much sitting here agreeing off the fact that everything is looking bad because tech was dropping, but we are still waiting for the jobs report, as we see here. So that's something to watch as we go along here. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to delete this. God damn it, I didn't want to delete that search. I wanted to show you guys what the headlines were. I thought I was just leaving my notes up there for a sec. I can't even keep track of what I'm doing up off this show. So Biden was in Kenosha yesterday, and I had the Google search up because I was going to show you, because I wanted you to see the sharp difference between if you Google News searched Trump in Kenosha when he came and visited on Tuesday and how awful and evil it was, and how much glowing praise there was for Joe Biden to come in there and do that. Let me be clear on something. Joe Biden only went there because Trump went there. Otherwise, and this is Joe Biden realizing he has to get out of his basement and go places. Now, of course, they can't use the excuse, well, Joe Biden never visited Wisconsin. But he came up and they're giving him absolute glowing, wonderful praise for how sainted he was that he visited Kenosha. The only problem is he fucking gapped while he was there. So we'll talk a bit about that. So let's see what we have here. Biden makes awkward "they'll shoot me" quip during Kenosha appearance, from Marissa Schultz. Former Vice President Joe Biden used an unfortunate choice of words Thursday while visiting Kenosha, Wisconsin, in the aftermath of the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Biden's speech, aimed at addressing racial unrest, veered into talking about inequities and taxes at one point. Of course it did. He stopped himself from laying out his tax policy in detail, saying if he goes on any longer, they'll shoot me. And thank you to Daily Caller, because we can actually hear this. Let's do that, actually. I want to get an ear monitor. That's tech stuff that we're here for the news.
The tax cut for the top 0.1%, which is $1,350,000,000,000, has done nothing to help anybody. 19 corporations making $1 billion apiece don't pay a single penny in taxes. I'm not going to punish anybody, but everybody should pay a fair share. And I can lay out for you. I won't now because they'll shoot me. But here's the deal. I pay for every single thing I'm proposing without raising your taxes 1 penny. If you make less than $400,000, you're not going to get a penny tax, and you're going to get a tax cut if you make under $125,000. So it's not we can't do this. We haven't been willing to do this. But I think the public's ready.
Okay, I realized just as we started playing the video, and I actually got a clearer picture of this. I know this church. This is the church that I used to go to when I lived down there. I can tell by the stained glass there in the background. This right here. Yeah, I know that church. I went there a few times. I've never regularly gone to church, but yeah, I went to that particular church. So that's kind of neat. The Democratic nominee, who has been prone into gaffes, billed his first trip to Wisconsin during the 2020 campaign as a moment of healing in the wake of racial unrest and violence. He met with community leaders at Kenosha's Grace Lutheran Church and listened to their concerns on topics like economic inequality, restoring faith in policing, criminal justice reform, and improving education. Biden also visited the family of Blake, a 29-year-old black man whose shooting by police last month set off another round of protests, in some instances riots and violence in Wisconsin and elsewhere. President Trump visited Wisconsin earlier this week, but didn't meet with Blake's family. Instead, he centered his message on supporting police and rebuilding damaged businesses. Biden said he's seeking common ground that Trump is incapable of reaching with law and order rhetoric and repeated refusals to acknowledge racism in America. I can't say if tomorrow God made me president, I can't guarantee you everything gets solved in 4 years, Biden said. But it wouldn't be a whole lot better. We'd get a whole lot further down the road if Trump isn't reelected. There's certain things worth losing over, he concluded. And this is something worth losing over if you have to, but we're not going to lose. I don't know what any of those words mean. I know what all of those individual words mean, but in that sentence together, I don't understand the message that he's trying to put out here. But thank you for the Daily Caller for tweeting out the video of that. That was quite entertaining. Glad to see that one as well. Yeah, I suppose if he's looking for common grounds, he would just go over to 6th Avenue and go a little ways north of where he's sitting there and go to the coffee shop up on the lakefront, I guess. If that's what he's actually seeking, but that's a local joke. I'm thinking that not many people in the live audience are going to catch that one. So, yeah, he went out to Kenosha and made the speech and made the gaffe and decided he wanted to talk about taxes instead of what actually happened down there. Instead of the fact that most of the big businesses downtown are either unable to open right now or completely burned to the ground. Let's keep going. I've got one here from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, archived, of course. Joe Biden in Kenosha, candidate felt good about Wisconsin visit. And by the way, this is the Journal-Sentinel, so they are going to kiss Biden's ass. No author given, by the way. Journal-Sentinel reporters are covering the aftermath of the shooting of Jacob Blake, who was shot in the back multiple times by Kenosha police, and the shooting deaths of 2 men during subsequent protests in the city. On Thursday, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden visited the city just 2 days after President Trump made the trip. It's Biden's first appearance in Wisconsin this year. So they've just got some tweets and reports and everything. Caitlin Collins, Trump rarely speaks to the press on returning to D.C. Can't recall when he ever has. But he did tonight in the dark to vigorously deny the Atlantic story. That has nothing to do with Kenosha. All right, let's scroll down here. 5:40 p.m. This was a very different trip from President Trump's. The Biden's visit was worlds apart in substance and style from Trump's visit. Biden wore a mask while he spoke. Trump did not. Biden spoke by phone with Jacob Blake, the black man who was shot 7 times by a white Kenosha police officer, and met with Blake's family. Trump did not. Law enforcement was a central presence and theme of Trump's visit, but not Biden's. From Craig Gilbert. Biden departs Wauwatosa to cheers from neighbors. Joe Biden was greeted by a cheering crowd in Wauwatosa as he left a small backyard discussion about education Thursday evening. A crowd of more than 200 supporters gathered outside throughout the hour-long event, where he and Jill Biden talked with 3 women, including educators and mothers, about the challenges of teaching children during the coronavirus pandemic. They talked about the struggles and fears as parents worry their children are falling behind, and specifically addressed the challenges for teachers and working-class parents trying to ensure all children have access to a quality education. As Joe Biden left, he walked around, waving to the cheering crowd that had gathered in the neighborhood. Many were chanting, "Let's go, Joe." 5:10 p.m., Biden asked for support to 2 Wisconsin organizations. The Biden campaign sent out an email asking for support to 2 Wisconsin-based organizations during his visit to the state. As you know, the Trump administration's terrible response to the pandemic made it impossible for us to be together in person in Milwaukee for the Democratic National Convention, the email read. Even in strong economies, the convention's host state looks forward to the financial boost the DNC gives. My campaign and I think we found a way to help. We'll need you in a big way to get it done. We're fundraising for United Migrant Opportunity Services and the Social Development Foundation, 2 Wisconsin-based organizations dedicated to supporting undeserved communities across the state. And I want to point this out. First off, is going into the United Migrant Opportunity Services, looking to help, and the Social Development Foundation. Okay, that's 2 good things here. But think about what's going on here right now. Think about this. This story brings up a very, very good point that I don't think that they intended to bring up. The Joe Biden campaign sent out an email asking for support to 2 Wisconsin-based organizations. As you know, the Trump's administration's terrible response to the pandemic made it impossible for us to be together in person in Milwaukee for the Democratic National Convention. Now, yes, they did have convention goers in Milwaukee. They had the space rented out already, and they had a handful of people up in there. But because of the pandemic, Joe Biden couldn't come. The crowds couldn't come. They couldn't bring anything else in there. These businesses at the beginning of the year, when they announced Milwaukee was going to be the home of the DNC, even into last year when they started talking about Milwaukee being the home of the DNC, these businesses were going out, taking loans that they thought for sure they were going to be able to pay back. These businesses in this local area were going out and being ready to serve a massive amount of customers and get a massive payoff off of this. And now everybody had a virtual convention and nobody was able to get anything off of it. And I have the same gripe to the RNC, except for the fact that they did have some in-person stuff going on in North Carolina. But for the fact of the matter is all these businesses in the area took a risk. They got screwed by the DNC once again, and now Biden came in, and after the DNC was over, just a couple weeks after the DNC was over, now Biden's sitting up here in town like nothing is wrong. Yes, he's wearing a mask, but he's willing to come to town now after these businesses made the losses from the risks that they took. So, yeah, this is... that is something to keep in mind as we go along with this. 4:35 p.m., Biden makes a stop in Wauwatosa. He had a roundtable up in one of the Milwaukee suburbs. It honestly looks like, yes, he went to Kenosha and went to the church, but he spent the majority of his time up in Milwaukee at this point, from what I can see off of this. So that's what we're going to see up off of this. I'm not going to read too much further into this because this is all about campaign stops. But yes, once again, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is more than likely going to kiss Biden's ass throughout the entire thing. I got one here from WISN. No, I don't want you to show me notifications. Biden explains why he believes Kenosha officer should be charged in WISN 12 News interview. From Matt Smith. At the end of a day-long campaign stop in Wisconsin, Vice President Joe Biden told WISN 12 News he came to listen directly to the people of Kenosha and Milwaukee. Biden's stop came 2 days after President Trump toured some of the damage and held a roundtable with law enforcement. Governor Tony Evers had requested Trump reconsider his visit and told reporters Thursday afternoon, "I would prefer that no one be here," after staying silent on the issue Wednesday when Biden campaign announced the stop. "Well, look, I'm really happy with what the governor had to say," Biden said in an interview with WISN 12 The News Thursday evening. "I talked to the governor, and he said my visit was very positive, and I plan on working with him if I'm elected president. I think he's one heck of a governor." Yeah, because he gets down on his knees and sucks off the fucking teachers union, who is probably also funding your campaign in a big way. Biden met privately with members of Jacob Blake's family, the man shot by Kenosha police officer, and talked with Blake over the phone. "I had a long discussion with the family before on the telephone. I wanted to meet them, and they indicated they wanted to meet me as well," Biden said. On Wednesday, Biden said the officer, Rustin Chesky, should be charged. The investigation by the Wisconsin Department of Justice is ongoing. Earlier this week, state officials said they had reviewed 28 videos and interviewed 88 people. "What I say is the investigation should go forward," Biden told WISN 12 News. "We should make sure when all the facts are in and the decision is made, but based on appearance, unless they can show something different than what everybody saw, looks like overuse of force." No, it's not overuse of force. Critics have accused Biden and other Democrats, such as Evers, of a rush to judgment. Not only are they rushing to judgment, they are tainting any possible jury pool that could possibly take this to a jury trial. This would be impossible to take to a jury trial at this point without people being in the jury, or even a full jury, given the demographics of the area of Wisconsin, that are going to be, "Well, I don't even want to hear the evidence. Let's just hang the fucker right now because he wears the badge and he shot a man." "No, I said it looks like an overuse of force," Biden said. "But let's wait. I talked to the governor about it. The attorney general is still investigating. Let the investigation take its course." So, and this is one of the things, I don't want to go back off on the topic and rehash everything that happened with the officer in question here, but the officer is never going to see a day in jail unless they crucify him for political purposes. Which I don't know if that's going to be a really good idea or not, because I'm pretty sure that if they do that, they're going to hand Trump the win in Kenosha, which is going to be integral to Trump winning Wisconsin. Jacob Blake had a knife in his hand, possibly in the car. After wrestling with police officers and being tased, which meant he was probably high out of his mind on something or other, he walked around calmly with police guns drawn on him and reached into a vehicle that wasn't his, with the woman that called in the felony sitting in the back seat and their 3 kids sitting in the back seat. Reached for something, didn't cooperate with officers, looked like a knife, and got shot in the back. I can't see any reason at all why this officer would ever see the inside of a cell, or even in the inside of a courtroom. If I was the prosecuting attorney, I would plead this out as quickly as possible. If they've even charged yet, I would just dismiss this and get the hell on with it. But yes, of course, Evers and Biden want to placate the rioters and come out and say, "Oh, no, please vote for us. We'll put the evil cop in jail, just please vote for us." So yeah, that's something to see here. That is the end of the article from WISN. I've got another one here from the Daily Wire. Biden, Trump's to blame for empty schools. Cruz, psst, Joe, you're the one that's saying shut them all down, from Hank Berrien. On Thursday, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden took a swipe at President Trump because many children are not in school, stating that it was Trump's fault schools were closed. He tweeted, "Right now, classrooms should be humming with excitement for a new year." He didn't tweet that. I can tell from that first sentence he didn't tweet that. One of his staffers or Jill tweeted that for him. And students' hopes for their futures. Instead, many are silent and empty because President Trump didn't do his job. America's families are paying the price for his failures. Senator Ted Cruz, who has 2 young daughters of his own, fired back at Biden. "Psst, Joe, you're the one saying shut them all down." Biden released a video in which he stated forcing educators and students back in the classroom in areas where infection rate is going up or remaining very high is just plain dangerous. He added, everyone wants our schools to reopen. The question is how to make it safe, how to make it stick. Biden's campaign insisted that he believes that the decision about when to reopen safely should be made by state, tribal, and local officials based on science and in consultation with communities and tribal governments. It should be made with the safety of students and educators in mind. Biden added in July, the Trump administration's chaotic and politicized response has left school districts to improvise 1,000 hard decisions on their own. Schools need clear, consistent, effective national guidelines, not mixed messages and political ultimatums. Wow, that is a statement that completely contradicted the statement before it. The decision about when to reopen safely should be made by state, tribal, and local officials based on science and in consultation with communities and tribal governments. But the Trump response left schools and districts to improvise based on the information that's given to them at a state, tribal, and local fucking level. Do people even proofread this stuff before they put the statements out? I can't believe Daily Wire didn't hit this part, this specific part here, harder. The Biden campaign stated in mid-July, the challenge facing our schools is unprecedented. President Trump has made it much worse. We had a window to get this right, and Trump blew it. Biden posing as an expert on schools is interesting. This is, after all, the same candidate who in December of 2019 asserted that he would end standardized testing in schools. So yes, we're going up off of this, and yeah, that's amazing, the fact that the campaign can in one breath say, let's leave it out to the locals and the local officials, and in the very next breath say, leaving it to the local issues means that they have to improvise. I don't know if anybody else caught that one or not, but that is just straight out fucking stupidity on everybody's level. Jesus. Alright. That's all that I have on Joe Biden and his visit for right now. And yeah, that was a fuck story and a half. The fact that he came there, the fact that he said make it. Honestly, your campaign may be right at this point, Biden. I mean, Trump is putting his foot in his mouth left and right, but he can't, as the president, avoid contact. He actually has to be out there no matter what. No matter what, he has to be out there in these neighborhoods. I think the best thing for the Biden campaign to do right now is to stick that guy back in the basement and hope for the best, because Biden's worst enemy in this campaign is going to be Joe Biden. 100%. But the media are going to run cover for him as well, so keep watching that. Keep that in mind as we go. And let's move on to some Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. From Fox Business, Discover blocks donations to site raising money for Kyle Rittenhouse defense. From Ken Martin. Discover Financial Services has blocked customers from making donations on a Christian crowdfunding site that was raising money for accused Kenosha gunman Kyle Rittenhouse, a report said. Give, Send, Go has raised more than $380,000 for the 17-year-old who's been receiving support in some conservative circles, who claim, because he did, he acted in self-defense when he fatally shot two protesters with an AR-15 style rifle during a chaotic night following the shooting of Jacob Blake. The credit card company, in emails to Forbes, said the action was taken for operating regulation violations. The violation wasn't explained. We regularly review merchants for operating regulations violations. Turning off merchants for violations is a typical process for us, but one we don't make public, the company said. GiveSendGo.com has received more than 9,000 donations for Rittenhouse's defense. And then we go back into Rittenhouse and what happened with him. So we all know the story. Most of you guys have been watching from the beginning of this. So we know what happened here. We watched the video, and I have two videos that are age restricted because I showed the videos of that. So, but this is just outright stupidity on Discover. First off, when's the last fucking time you saw a Discover card? Seriously. When's the last time you saw one of those? If I was Discover right now in today's market, dominated by Visa and MasterCard, I would be saying, please spend my money. Please spend Discover card funds on whatever you can so I can get some sort of fees off of this. I didn't even realize Discover was still around. I thought they'd gone belly up. I think I have seen one Discover card in the last 10 years. So, yes, if I was Discover, I would absolutely be begging people to spend as much money as they can through them, lest they completely go belly up over it. I mean, has anybody else in the live chat actually seen a Discover card at some point? Because I haven't for a very, very long time. And that's the other bitch of it too, is yeah, they're gonna come out and, oh well, we're virtuous. Come and buy our card because we won't give money to the evil teenager who murdered people. So that's what we're seeing up off of this, and it's, if your card is that unpopular, then yes, I would be encouraging people to make as many transactions on it as I can. So that's the end of that article. That's a little quick hitter for us here. I got a couple quick hitters here. I mean, we've still got some stuff to go through, but a lot of the rest of this is going to be some quick stuff. So we might actually get in the under the, well, no, I don't think we'll get the under the hour mark because I still have to take some time and thank you guys very kindly for watching my show throughout the week. And that's going to take a little bit of time at the end here. Let's keep going here, though, from Fox News. Trump's vote twice comments outrage media which amplify his message, from Howard Kurtz, which is an interesting strategy. And I almost forgot to put this in here, and then I saw this up on the Fox News front page. I'm like, yeah, we got to talk about this here. Let's see what Howard Kurtz has to say. So why did the President of the United States do it? Why did Donald Trump, in broad daylight, with cameras rolling, suggest that the good people of North Carolina vote twice? He knew full well that this would cause a media freakout. Well, Trump cutting the wrong way into a poached egg causes a media freakout. So, that journalists and pundits would rise up in unison and denounce him promoting such a blatantly illegal act. And that was precisely the point. Had Trump merely issued his 130th warning about mail-in ballot fraud, it wouldn't have made much news. Maybe one paragraph in a story and 4 tweets by an enraged PolitiFact fact checker that says, "Whoa, no, there's very little evidence that there's any voter fraud anywhere ever. There's one guy and he did it for a Republican. That's the only voter fraud that's ever existed in the entire 250 years of our republic," or whatever the fuck it is. But he knows from long experience that when he crosses the line, goes over the top, the resulting furor can last for several days, even a week, getting the media and political world chattering about the very issue he wants to spotlight. If he takes heat, he has to backtrack, so be it. It still means lots of cable segments and front page stories about the possibility of mail fraud as opposed to, say, 1,000 Americans dying each day from COVID-19. Yeah, of course you gotta fucking put that in there, you political fucking journalistic hack. Now, I'm not defending the outrageous suggestion that Americans somehow test the system by voting twice. Or why stop there, maybe 5 times? I mean, hell, they've been doing it in Wisconsin for 40 fucking years. But I don't think Trump is serious. He has a well-established pattern of saying questionable things to push a broader narrative, in some case admitting privately he's changing the subject from some other controversy. He's trolling the press. Here are the president's exact words to John Evans of North Carolina's WECT. Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and then they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way, because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that. So let them send it in and let them go vote. And if the system is as good as they say it is, obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is, and that's what they should do. He repeated a similar message last night in Pennsylvania. I haven't found anyone, including Fox News, defending this maneuver. In fact, when Sandra Smith pressed Kayleigh McEnany on why Trump made the comments, the press secretary said that he wasn't suggesting people do anything illegal, but to make sure that their mail-in ballot was tabulated, and if not, go vote. He wants verification, she said. The second round, as these things spread across the cableverse, was when Bill Barr appeared on CNN. When Wolf Blitzer says it sounds like Trump is encouraging people to break the law and try to vote twice, the Attorney General replied, "Well, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it seems to me he was saying he's trying to make the point that the ability to monitor the system is not good." When Wolf pressed again, Barr said he didn't know the law in particular, or in that particular state, but that the whole mail-in ballot system is like playing with fire. And that is something that's very interesting to go through. And yes, that's something to actually absolutely look at as we're going into all of this. To absolutely see as we're looking into the mail in voting and the system off of this. Go and make sure that your vote was counted. And if your vote wasn't counted, then vote. If you sent in your mail in ballot, first and foremost, now you're coming out here and you're making sure that your vote was tabulated, that the system is actually working, which I have this feeling is making a lot of people very, very nervous coming into this. People that might ballot harvest or people that might just see, oh, Trump. Whoop. And furthermore, I do think, and I can't prove this is my allegation to the whole thing. Now, I've looked at the mail-in voting system, and I do think that there is some aspect of fraud that's going along with it, that people are going to vote twice at some point or another. Because some of this is inevitable, and honestly, I really think, especially with all the people that are pushing for mail-in voting, and the people that are on the side of the aisle that are pushing for mail-in voting, I think part of that was baked into the cake. I really do. That, oh, well, they're going to go out and they're going to vote twice, and we'll just ignore it that it goes there. Then we'll get the double votes for the Democrat candidate, and we'll see the massive landslide for Joe Biden that we need to make Kamala Harris our president. And now people are actually going to think about this and wonder whether or not the system is in order. Actually having a check on the system somewhere, I think is going to make a bunch of people very, very nervous as we go forward into this. So that is going to be something to watch as we come in and as we go along from this. All right, let's keep going here from the Daily Wire. Anonymous sources tell MAG that Trump called dead troops losers. 5 witnesses go on record to dispute. From Ryan Saavedra. A report published by The Atlantic claimed on Thursday that President Donald Trump called American troops who died in battle losers and suckers, citing anonymous sources. Of course it's an anonymous source. It's always an anonymous source. Every time you see something like this, it's always an anonymous source, and they can't go back on the record and ask that person any questions about it. The story is now being strongly disputed by at least 5 witnesses who were with the president that day and say the story is nothing short of a fabrication. The story from the left-wing outlet comes after the president has clawed his way back in the polls in recent weeks, leading J.P. Morgan's Marko Kolanovic, Ph.D., to tell clients this week that they should start preparing for a potential Trump re-election. The only reason Trump has seen turnaround in the polls is the left-wing rioting and looting that has taken place over the course of summer in Democrat-controlled cities, many of which declined help from the Trump administration to maintain law and order. However, purported emails from the officials that day state the reason that Trump did not attend the Ashley American Cemetery and Memorial was in fact due to bad weather. We are a BADWX call for today's lift. COS General Kelly will motorcade and replace POTUS for today's ceremony. Please advise if any questions. So apparently that's code for bad weather. On that Atlantic story, Jeffrey Goldberg and his 4 sources claim Trump's helicopter flight to the U.S. French cemetery wasn't canceled due to weather. FOIA docs prove this to be false. Their sources are failing basic fact checks, making them essentially worthless. Furthermore, 4 officials in the Trump administration who were with the president that day went on record, unlike those who made the allegations against Trump, and directly disputed the account of what happened. Jordan Karam, personal aide to President Trump, wrote on Twitter, "This is not even close to being factually accurate. Plain and simple, it just never happened." Again, this is 100% false, Karam added. "I was next to the president the whole day. The president was greatly disappointed when told we couldn't fly there. He was incredibly eager to honor the fallen soldiers." So, yeah, and I mean, of course, it's anonymous sources, and now we have people that are actually sourced that are willing to come up and get questioned by the news outlets and say, okay, did this really happen or not? And the FOIA Act is out there, so that's what we're going to see up off of this here. Let's go bring one in from Forbes. Thanks for checking in on that, Sully, off of that. But I actually will answer Captain Ultra Dark's question at the end of the show when I'm thanking everybody for chatting in the live chat. So thank you, though. NYC restaurants sue Cuomo de Blasio for $2 billion over the indoor dining ban from Daniel Cassidy. So this is another thing, too, because these businesses are getting ready to shutter. And they're going to start fighting back because the draconian laws are there. And honestly, until everything comes back from this latest round of riots, nobody gives a fuck about COVID right now. I don't hear anybody talking about this anywhere. The news is, every once in a while when they have to pin something on Trump, they'll talk about COVID, but nobody's talking about COVID right now. Restaurants in New York City filed a $2 billion class action lawsuit against city and state officials on Thursday, alleging the indoor dining ban caused irreparable harm to the city's food and beverage industry. Pushing for the return of indoor dining, the lawsuit marks the latest attempt to normalize the city through legal action. And we've got some key facts here, but let's look at the background here. On Monday, both Cuomo and de Blasio acknowledged the pressure that New York City restaurants are facing, but neither have said when or under what circumstances indoor dining in the city could resume. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy announced Monday that restaurants in the state could open at 25% capacity, exacerbating the situation, with Cuomo admitting that New York City restaurants were now at a competitive disadvantage since diners could cross a bridge or a tunnel and eat in New Jersey. And we're going to get to that point, too, where New Yorkers are actually going to go to New Jersey, as much as I know it's a stereotype and I know it's a funny sitcom trope, but as much as New Yorkers hate New Jersey, they'll go over there for food. Real New Yorkers, of course. I want as much economic activity as quickly as possible. We also want to make sure transmission rate stays under control. That is the tension, Cuomo said at a press conference. De Blasio said Monday that restaurants in the city deserve a timeline at the very least, and hopes a plan will be set in September, but admitted that the decision wasn't in his hand, but in Cuomo's. So, yeah, if you owned a business and the government came down and said, you shall not open, even after everything is under control, that they keep claiming that Cuomo has had the best response ever, the very best response ever to the coronavirus, and nothing could ever go wrong again. I had the best response. Try and fight me. I had the best response, all right? Even after that, they still want to keep everything shut down when, like the article says, New Jersey is open, Massachusetts is somewhat open, Wisconsin is open, Illinois is somewhat open. Every state around the union has had some sort of business opening, except for California and New York, and I bet these people are pissed. That's probably part of the reason we saw the Pelosi thing, which I've got a little bit to talk about on that a little bit later too. But yeah, absolutely, when your government has failed you, get out of the government or sue the shit out of them. And some of these companies are not going to have the ability to get out of the government that they're in because they haven't made any money for 6 months. So that's what we're going to see up off of this here. Let's watch another video, actually. Because this is going to be funny. Now we're going to get into the Pelosi stuff here. So Kayleigh McEnany had an epic troll yesterday, and C-SPAN tweeted out the video of it. So I will get my monitor in. We will turn your monitor on, and we will see what happened there. So, from the tweet, it says, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, we found Nancy Pelosi going into her hair salon. We will be playing the video on loop for all of you to see during the duration of this introduction. Apparently, the rules do not apply to Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
I asked, where is Nancy Pelosi? Today, I can announce we have found Nancy Pelosi. As you can see, we found Nancy Pelosi going into her hair salon. We will be playing the video on loop for all of you to see during the duration of this introduction. Nancy Pelosi was not in the halls of Congress when I asked where she was. She was not working in good faith to make a deal for the American people. Nope, Nancy Pelosi was found in San Francisco at a hair salon where she was indoors, even though salons in California are not only open for outdoor service. Apparently, the rules do not apply to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She wants small businesses to stay shut down, but only reopen for her convenience. Do as I say, not as I do, says Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is holding up $1.3 trillion in relief for the American people, while getting special access to the very kind of small businesses that this money would support, businesses like this hair salon. Before she skipped town to violate her state's health guidelines, Pelosi proposed a bill. It was called the HEROES Act, which contained no additional paycheck protection funding. This is funding that would help the very small business she has bizarrely accused of plotting against her. The president sees through Democrats' disregard for Americans in need, and he took action unilaterally in his own accord. He provided relief from evictions, he provided unemployment insurance, he paused student loan payments, and he cut the payroll tax, putting money in the American people's pockets. Congress also failed to authorize funding to provide children with free lunches for the 2020-2021 school year. And again, President Trump, with senior advisor Ivanka Trump, took action. And now USDA has extended a summer program which will ensure children continue to have access to free meals through the end of the year. Nancy Pelosi is demanding an apology from a single mother and small business owner who has received threats since Nancy Pelosi's comments against her salon. Salon owner Erica Kaya said this: "Since this happened, I've received nothing but hate text messages, death threats, saying they're going to burn down my hair salon. It's just sad that my community is pulling this, saying that I threw her under the bus when I did not. So that's hurtful. But yes, I think I'm pretty much done now." Nancy Pelosi, you ought to apologize to the American people. Or better yet, come back to Washington and get to work for hardworking Americans like this salon owner that you maligned and demanded an apology from. And with that, I'll take questions. Yes, John.
I thought we actually wanted to see the whole video of that one. I definitely wanted to see the whole video of that one. That is great. And yes, on a loop, over and over, 10 seconds of Nancy Pelosi walking through a salon without a mask. Over and over and over again. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was wonderful. And I don't know what happened in this salon. I really don't. We don't know. None of us knows what happened. Pelosi may actually be 100% right. This might have been a setup. This very well might have been a setup. We won't know that for a very long time until the investigation is over and various other things come out of this. And the news is going to forget about this at some point before we get to the bottom of it, because it's the news cycle, and the news cycle has very much been throughout this presidency, and especially in the last one. Ooh, shiny object, shiny object. As soon as the story becomes inconvenient for somebody that they're trying to support. But even if Ms. Caius did set Nancy Pelosi up, Nancy Pelosi had every opportunity to say no. That's something that I want to drive home. Even if everything that Nancy Pelosi is saying is true, she still had the opportunity to say no. You know the laws. You know the locality. You're supposed to be working with your local leaders because you're representing them to the federal government. So yes, no, you get no sympathy from me, even if you were set up, because you should have known better. And you had the opportunity to say no. So that's what we have here going on. This one came to me. I actually wouldn't have noticed this unless Sully Blue had set something up over in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, head on over there. It is in the description of every source here, the YouTube, the DLive, and the Twitch, and also in the Facebook if you are watching over there. Angry salon customers protest at Pelosi's home, hang blow dryers and curlers on Pelosi's tree, from Ryan Saavedra. Does anybody else over at the Daily Wire write? Because it seems like it's the only thing that I see is Ryan Saavedra. And every once in a while a Hank Berrien or an Emily Zanotti, but it's like 4 out of every 5 articles says Ryan Saavedra on it. Women who reportedly described themselves as angry salon customers peacefully protested at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's home in San Francisco on Thursday after video surfaced this week that showed Pelosi getting her hair done at a salon in violation of coronavirus lockdown measures. Protesters have gathered in front of Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home and are stringing up curlers and blow dryers on a tree after the video surfaced of Pelosi getting her hair done indoors maskless at a San Francisco salon. The San Francisco Chronicle reporter Jessica Christian wrote on Twitter. Christian continued, none of these demonstrators in front of Nancy Pelosi's home are salon owners or workers. They've all described themselves as angry salon customers who want to get their hair and nails done. There's the curlers. No, that's the blow dryer there. Hang it up in the tree. This is the same video, I think it is. Yeah, it's the same one. Oh, she's
a single mom who's lost her salon now because of 6 months of lockdown by Nancy Pelosi and Mayor London Breed, her enabler, the mayor of San Francisco. This woman has no way of making money, and so what does Nancy Pelosi do? She goes on the attack. Not only does she go on the attack, she goes after this woman personally.
All right, I was a little shorty there. Demonstrators have formed a hand-holding circle around a tree with blow dryers and curlers hanging in front of Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home. Christian added, the tree of blow dryers and curlers has been decorated with an American flag and dubbed the Freedom Tree. Yeah, I love that. By protesters in front of Nancy Pelosi's home. So this is great. And yes, this is a peaceful protest. So nobody's going to get the coronavirus from it because it's a peaceful protest. And I bet you somebody comes out and tries to say that this is going to be linked to some sort of super spreader event. I bet you. Give it a couple days, and I bet you we're going to hear something like this. Maybe on Tuesday, because we are going into a holiday weekend, and they can't gin up the same kind of outrage that they can. So, that was entertaining to see here. All right, I've got 6 more. But we're going to blow through them here, and then I will read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat both today and throughout the week here. So if you want to get your name in the live chat and you're just lurking right now, go ahead and start getting messages up there so I can read back for you. I know I owe Captain Ultra Dark an explanation at the end of the show, so we'll be seeing that. And let's see what we've got here. Suspect in Portland fatal shooting has been killed, reports. I believe Miami mentioned something about that in the live chat earlier. From Dom Colicchio. An Antifa sympathizer who was said to be a suspect in the fatal shooting of a Patriot Prayer supporter in Portland, Oregon last month was reportedly killed Thursday night as authorities moved in to arrest him. Michael Forrest Rennell, 48, died in Lacey, Washington, outside Seattle during an operation by a federal fugitive task force, the New York Times reported. Rennell's death was also confirmed by a senior Justice Department official. According to the Associated Press, the suspect was shot by law enforcement after drawing a gun on officers, the AP report said. The task force was composed of personnel from the FBI and the U.S. Marshal Service. In a statement early Friday, the Marshal Service said the task force was acting on a murder warrant issued for Rennell by Portland police. Initial reports indicate that the suspect produced a firearm threatened the lives of law enforcement officers, the statement said. Task force members responded to the threat and struck the suspect, who was pronounced dead at the scene. Check his ears. He might have different ears. Portland police had issued a warrant for Rennell earlier in the day amid their investigation into the August 29th fatal shooting of Aaron J. Danielson, 39, on a night in which supporters of President Trump clashed with backers of the Black Lives Matter movement in Oregon's largest city. Earlier Thursday, Rennell was quoted in an interview on the Vice website claiming he was a marked man. "They're out hunting me," Rennell, 48, a father of 2, told an independent reporter in the interview posted on Thursday by Vice. There's nightly protests of the hunt, and where they're going to be hunting, they made a post saying the deer are going to feel lucky this year because it's open season on Michael right now. Well, you kind of fucking killed a man and then you ran away. Rennell told journalist Donovan Farley in the interview that he had no regrets about firing his weapon last weekend. I was confident that I did not hit anyone innocent, and I made my exit, he said. Prior to Thursday's law enforcement action, the assertion that Rennell was a person of interest in the Danielson shooting came from Rennell's sister and an anonymous law enforcement source, both of whom spoke this week with the Wall Street Journal. Is there anything that you could do? I mean, the guy's legitimately on a Vice website confessing to his crime and then bitching about the fact that he's being hunted. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? I don't really justify police at any point being a judge, jury, and executioner, but I may have to make an exception for this one. This dude was sick. Rennell was a frequent participant of the nightly protests in Portland that had been occurring since the May 25th death of George Floyd in police custody in Minneapolis, and was reportedly involved in several confrontations. Among them, in July, Rennell suffered a gunshot wound while trying to wrestle a gun away from a stranger, and was also cited for allegedly carrying a loaded gun to a protest on July 5th, the Oregonian reported. On July 26th, he was wounded in a brawl in a downtown Portland park. On the evening of the Danielson shooting, Rennell said in the Vice interview, he tried to assist a friend who was being confronted by Trump supporters. He said one man threatened him and his friend with a knife. Had I stepped forward, he would have maced or stabbed me, Rennell claimed. What's the deal, marshals? He's right here on camera. Video shot by bystander appears to show a man resembling Rennell firing 2 shots at Danielson and then walking away, the Vice report said. Yeah, I don't condone police shooting when there's another way. Because you do have due process. The police should not be the executioner in the case. You should get your chance to stand in front of a jury and make your case. But I've got this deep-seated feeling, given what this guy said on Vice News, that guy would have stood in front of the jury and said, yeah, I fucking did it, and I'd do it again. Right in the middle of the courtroom. He was proud of what he did. And then, yes, of course he's being hunted. You killed a human being in cold blood and then ran away. This was not somebody chasing you down and then you tripping and falling and then pulling up in self-defense. You killed a person and then walked away. So, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely should have got his day in court, but I'm right on the fence about that one in this particular instance. All right, let's keep going here. I got one more from the Daily Wire. Police rush out on the street to clear Antifa after they mourn the death of fellow extremists, from Daily Wire News. Law enforcement officers rushed to the street of Portland on Thursday night to clear out the Antifa members out of the area after they reportedly were mourning the death of Antifa extremist Michael Rennell, who was killed by authorities earlier in the day after he pulled a gun on officers as they attempted to arrest him for fatally shooting a right-wing activist. There's a transcript of the night's violence there. We're not going to go after this. Video highlighted online shows Portland law enforcement officials clearing the streets at the Kelly Penumbra building, where Antifa supporters reportedly have been mourning the death of Rennell.
Lawful action. Do not interfere.
Going in and
Stay back.
Thank you, Andy.
Officers are taking lawful action. Do not
I'm sure that Andy wasn't the one who took the video because I'm sure that Antifa's got him marked. But, yep, they're clearing out because I got this feeling.
Officers are taking lawful action. Do not interfere.
Photos show messages on the streets reportedly written by the Antifa supporters mourning Rennell's death, including the claim that Portland police murdered Michael Rennell. I mean, he pulled a gun on him. But yeah, I see, you murdered Michael Rennell, you killed Michael. PPB murdered Michael Rennell, blood on your hands. Oh, I wonder if we're going to see more unrest off of this that Ted Wheeler isn't going to do anything about. So yeah, of course, he got shot and everybody took the streets to do more rioting or protesting or mourning. But that's what we saw off of this here. And yeah, like I said, I still say he should have got his due process, but it's really good that this guy isn't in this world anymore. I'm sorry. All right, let's keep going here. I've got one from News 12 The Bronx. Video, car drives through protesters in Times Square. As the rain came down Thursday night on protests against police brutality in Times Square, a car was caught on camera driving through a crowd of protesters. Witnesses say about 350 people were in Times Square marching in solidarity with Daniel Prude, a black man who died after being arrested by Rochester police upstate. It is unclear how many people were injured, but the protest allegedly continued on in Columbus Circle. So that's a little quick hitter here. But yes, of course, once again, this is something that mainstream news isn't going to cover because it's not politically convenient anymore. And it's hurting Biden in the polls. But yes, there was another protest for another black man that was killed by police in Rochester, upstate New York. And some idiot drove his car through it. I'm actually a little surprised we didn't get much more story up off of this. So we will keep an eye on this one to see if anything else goes off of this. All right. Now I've got some maybe good news we will see off of this. Remember the Beirut explosion 1,000 years ago, which was actually just 4 weeks ago? Beirut rescuers search site for possible survivor 30 days after the explosion. From Tamara Kiblawi and Ghazi Balkis and Julia Hollingsworth over at CNN. Rescue teams in Beirut are digging deeper into rubble Friday, where signs of life were detected 30 days after a massive explosion destroyed much of the city's downtown coastal area. George Abu Musa, operations head at the Lebanese Civil Defense, told CNN on Friday that the operation was less than half a meter away from a possible survivor's location. Search teams swarmed the Mar Mekel area, a neighborhood near the epicenter of last month's blast on Thursday, after the rescue teams detected movement deep within debris. Rescuers worked under floodlights in humid summer conditions to remove portions of a wall with a crane as a crowd stood by anxious for updates. On Friday morning local time, thermal imaging showed body heat in the rubble, while rescuers also detected 8 breaths per minute amid the debris. Eddie Bitar, co-founder of Live Love Beirut, an NGO helping with the rescue efforts, told CNN. Yesterday, teams heard 18 breaths per minute. Rescuers asked a crowd of about 200 onlookers to be silent so their equipment could better detect any breath or heartbeats of a possible survivor. Members of the crowd switched off their phones as they awaited news. The search was sparked by a rescue dog that passed the destroyed building with a Chilean rescue team on Thursday and indicated signs of life, said Eddie Bitar, a local non-governmental organization worker. Thermal imaging later showed 2 bodies, one small body curled up next to a larger body. A listening device also registered a respiratory cycle of 18 per minute, Bitar said. There's a small chance that the person is still alive, Bitar said. So there's some good news for you. And of course, there was some tension. Thursday's search was temporarily suspended over concerns that a wall could collapse and endanger the lives of the rescue team, Beirut Fire Brigade Officer Lieutenant Michel Elmure said. After the search was suspended on Thursday night local time, a protest of about 100 people erupted outside the site. That breath is our last breath. It's our last hope. You should be ashamed, yelled protester Melissa Atala. One woman heard saying, "We have been here for a month. Can't you stay up for one night?" So that is some good news that we're going to see, hopefully, off of this. Maybe it looks and says one smaller body against a larger body, a parent and a child buried in the rubble that could possibly still be alive. So say a prayer for Beirut and hope that we can get these people out and recovered and maybe get some idea of what happened off of this. All right. I've got 2 here to finish out the show that came from Ron Helton over in the Discord server. Australian dad among 42 missing at sea after ship capsizes near Japan. From Jackie Salo over at the New York Post. An Australian dad is missing after a freighter capsized off the coast of Japan when it hit rough waters caused by a typhoon. Lucas Orta, 25, who has a 6-month-old baby, is among the 42 crew members missing after the vessel sank Wednesday west of the Japanese island of Amami Oshima in the East China Sea. Australian outlet 7 News reported. The livestock ship, which was carrying 5,800 cows, was set to arrive in China next Friday, but encountered rough weather from Typhoon Maisak. Only one crew member, a Filipino chief officer, has been rescued, while dozens of others remain lost at sea. They include 38 crew members from the Philippines, 2 from New Zealand, and 2 from Australia. Officials said the survivor, who was hospitalized, told rescuers that the engine stalled on the ship, then the vessel sank after being struck by a powerful wave. Coast Guard regional spokesman Yushiro Higashi said the typhoon has since passed the area and continuing search efforts should not be hampered by the weather. So, once again, some more prayers out there for these people, and hopefully the majority of them get found. I know that it's going to be bad for the livestock, the cargo that was on there, unfortunately. Unfortunately, in the middle of the sea, I don't see a lot of them surviving, but hopefully enough of the people were able to get to some sort of life craft and survive, and the search goes well for the people, and we pray for the families of those who have lost people at sea. All right. And the last article here, and once again, if you're lurking right now and you want to get your messages read, get in that live chat. If you're on Facebook, hit one of the links above you and get in the live chat so I can read your name. And thank you for watching the show. But the last one that I have here comes from CNBC. GM and Honda to establish strategic alliance in North America. GM has been busy flirting with everybody else in the world at this point. Have you seen the new international truck? The new class 4 that they put out? It's a Chevrolet. It absolutely is. It's a Chevrolet medium duty that they put a diamond on the front of. 6.6 liter international engine. It's a fucking Duramax. But let's see what they have to do with Honda here. From Michael Wayland. General Motors and Honda Motor have signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding towards establishing a North American automotive alliance that includes collaborating on future vehicles and sharing purchasing costs. The companies, they'll immediately start planning for the new vehicles, with engineering work expected to begin early in 2021. The alliance, according to the companies, will include a range of vehicles to be sold under each company's distinct brands, as well as cooperation in purchasing, research and development, and connected services. The combined efficiencies of the companies are expected to free up cash for both companies to invest in advanced and next-generation autonomous and electric vehicle technologies. This alliance will help both companies accelerate investment in future mobility innovation by freeing up additional resources, GM President Mark Russ said in a statement on Thursday. The announcement did little for shares of GM and Honda. Shares of GM were down more than 4% in afternoon trading Thursday, while Honda fell less than 1%. Royce said the companies expect significant cost savings as a result of the alliance, although they didn't disclose any financial information, saying those details will be released when the deal is finalized. Through this new alliance with GM, we can achieve substantial cost efficiencies in North America that will enable us to invest in future mobility technology while maintaining our own distinct and competitive product offerings, Seiji Kuriyashi, a Honda executive vice president, said in a statement. All facets of the alliance will be governed by a joint committee comprising senior executives from both companies. The tie-up builds on an announcement agreement between the companies in April to jointly develop 2 new electric vehicles for Honda based on GM's upcoming global EV platform and Ultium battery technology. The companies also have partnership on fuel cell technology, batteries, and GM's majority-owned subsidiary Cruise, which Honda is a minority owner of following a $2.75 billion investment announced in 2018. I guess the first thing that I have to ask about this is, what does Toyota have to say about this? Because GM and Toyota have been sleeping in the same bed since the 70s. And you see it in some of their vehicles. I mean, Toyota sold the Toyota Cavalier in Japan for a decade. And you have several other things, like, was it the Chevy Prism? Was it Toyota Corolla under a different badge? The Pontiac Vibe, was it Toyota, was it Matrix? Under a different badge? Yeah, those two have been giving it to each other for quite a long time. They've been bumping uglies for a while. But like I said at the beginning, GM has been courting every other automaker for quite a while. That new 10-speed that's in the that's in the 7th generation Ford trucks, the 2015 and up. That is a joint venture between GM and Ford. The two of them designed that together, and both a GM and a Ford use the same transmission at this point. GM was in talks to buy Chrysler before Fiat came in and took it over. GM and Toyota have been sleeping in the same bed. GM and Navistar, GM and Honda, GM and Saab. Well, GM bought Saab, so that's a little bit different. But yeah, they've been in all kinds of other automakers' beds for a long time. And it kind of makes me wonder about the future of the company. And I used to be a big GM guy. I'm not really so much anymore, but I used to be a big GM guy. So I have to wonder what this means for them in the future, and if this means that they may be in some sort of financial trouble as well and trying to take a little bit of cash to get more Hondas built in the US so they can avoid tariffs if tariffs were to come. Alright, so that's what we have for news today, and the last thing that we do on a Friday is read the name of everybody who chatted in the live chat here. So I've got my paper here of everybody throughout the week from Monday through Thursday. But we will start with Friday. So let's scroll back up to the top. Seawall is here in his half-track. Dava Cannabis with the stickers. I want to see some stickers at the bottom of this here, so unload your stickers as well as we get here. Ron Helton is here. We got some more Stelly Blue over there. Dava with some more stickers. I like the skeleton sticker. That's kind of cool. Michael Vega showed up here. Thanks for coming by, Michael. I know we had some new names in here. So, Miami 1984, Lurking Lizards, and Twitch Trolls. I like that. I do get some Twitch Trolls in here every once in a while, but I get some cool Twitch people too. Let's see, who else do we have here? Captain Ultra Dark, where are you on the political spectrum? I am a Federalist. I believe solely in the 10th Amendment, and I can't get behind the LP because they want to impose their will from the top down in a different way, but still from the top down. When I took the political compass test, I was very firmly seated in the lower right-hand corner. And thanks again for Sully for pointing out that I don't usually read the live chat live through this because we're reading headlines and getting on here. Sully's in love with Kaylee McEnany. And then you were sitting here talking about GM and typhoons and everything else here. So let's get those stickers up here while I read from the rest of the week. On Monday, we had a slower day. We had Sully, we had Spartan 000, Subhuman was in here, Miami 1984. And we had a Chris Chilinsky, that was a new name, so thanks for coming in and checking us out. On Tuesday, we had Sully Blue, we had Seawall 728, we had SCG in a Tree, and Koijoy 9797. Those were a couple new names as well. Thanks for coming by and checking out the show. On Wednesday, we had Dava, Cannabis, Sully Blue, Seawall, Papa Ragnaman. That was a new name in here, so thanks for coming and checking out. So Blippity Blop came in from the other side of the pond for just a little bit here. I had a Mad Cow Mark over on YouTube. New name, thanks for coming in and checking us down. And Republic of Tryhards told me that I have too many tabs open, and that's poor streamer etiquette. Well, I mean, that's kind of what we do here, is open up a bunch of tabs and read the news as we go. So I don't know what the problem is, but yeah. On Thursday, we had Ron Helton, Sully Blue, Miami 1984. We had EBZ's V6 Challenger. I've seen that name in here once or twice here before, but thanks for coming in and checking us out. We had PM Me Your Nachos. That's an interesting name, and I will find a way to PM you some nachos. I don't know how that's going to work, but I will find a way for that. And Corvo Bianco Nero was the last one that we'll read today. Thanks everybody who came and checked us out here. I thought about it through, and I decided that I am not going to do an Ed Talk tomorrow, even though it is an Ed Talk week, because it is Memorial Day weekend, and I want you guys out and spending time with your family instead of spending time watching on your phone or your tablet or everywhere else. I do appreciate when you guys come in and hang out on the Ed Talk with me, but yeah, I definitely want you guys to go hang out with your family. And a lot of us missed Memorial Day because we were still afraid of the coronavirus. So now that nobody gives a fuck, I want you guys to go out and enjoy the time. Enjoy your last weekend of official summer before we get into the fall season and pumpkin spice explodes fucking everywhere. So, with that being said, we will be back here on Monday with more contemporary because I'm going to work on Memorial Day. So we'll have more contemporary on Monday or the Rednet Show on Monday night. We hope to see you there, and we hope to answer some more of your questions as we go. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.